Welcome everyone to the Money Mindset Mission Show. I am so excited. This is a very rare occurrence, but we have a very special guest with us today. I am so excited to welcome Sam to the podcast. We literally just last week recorded an episode, which is on her podcast, and we're doing a little swapsies. So now Sam is on the MMM show, and we are so excited. I know, like you mentioned in your episode, we have a lot of mutual followers, mutual friends, mutual clients. So this is so exciting to get to meet you. And we dived into all things money last week. And this week we have so much more juicy stuff to talk. I was like, we need to talk for a very long time. So, Sam, can you introduce everyone to the show? If you are living under a rock and you haven't heard of Samantha yet, please introduce yourself for everyone listening. And continuing that, I would love to know, like, what was your hero's journey? I believe that everyone in this space has a hero's journey. They had their, low moment and then this moment of transformation and reflection that brought you to where you are today. So I would love to know what that was for you.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be on the show. Yeah, okay, the hero's journey. Gosh, where should we start? I feel similar to you. You're like, I could talk forever. So let's find a point of reference and just kind of like go from there and run with it. So I think if I think about, the lower points in my journey and what really kind of catapulted me or the things that were the catalyst to me making a lot of changes in my life and building a business or creating the results that I have for myself, I really think about two times in particular. I first think about when I was in college and I was really struggling with body image. I never had an eating disorder per se, but I definitely was in that like binge restrict cycle of wanting to have fun, wanting to make the most out of my time at college, and obviously drinking a lot of alcohol and eating all the drunk food and, going to the fraternity parties and the football games. Like I went to a really big school. And so it was always like fun parties, things to do, very unhealthy lifestyle. Right. And I wanted to make the most of my time. And so I was in that kind of scene of things and I was enjoying it. It wasn't like I was forcing myself. I did enjoy it. But then there was also a part of me that was like, I want to be fit and I want to be thin and I want to look attractive and I want to fit the beauty ideals and I want male attention in a positive way, like we all do. And so I would go through these cycles of, working out really hard, being really focused on tracking everything in my fitness pal, which was just, I mean, a waste of time in college. I put a full bottle of wine in my fitness pal at one point, which is like, you don't even want to know how many calories that is. And why are we even tracking it to begin with? And, I was really into like hit workouts. I don't know if anyone remembers like Kayla
Yeah,
Itsines
let's do
or
this. Yes, 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 yes. Literally was thinking about her yesterday. I was like, flashback. Yes, I did it as well.
I know. Some of us have PTSD from that time period, but that was like the it girl thing to be doing. Those were the workouts, the bikini body guide. Like that's what we were all doing. So we
Yeah.
were essentially doing like burpees and jump lunges and box jumps and like killing ourselves in the gym and then going out on the weekends and at night and just like binge drinking and then eating drunk food and so it wasn't working. But I do remember vividly after studying abroad while I was in college as well, where I came back and things in terms of body image were really bad because I had YOLO'd my way through Europe. I traveled to like 10 plus countries. I was eating, I was drinking, I was doing all the things. And then I came back and I looked at myself and I was like, now we actually have a problem.
Mm.
This is actually not okay. Like I don't recognize myself. I've gained a lot of weight. I don't feel good in my body. I feel really self-critical. And so that time period is really what encouraged me or was the catalyst for me to get into personal development work. Because I was
Mm.
like, I have to find a way to be okay with myself and to love myself, right? This was like 2015, 2016. Self love was first coming on the scene. We were all learning about what it meant to love ourselves. And I started doing affirmations for the first time and meditating. And I actually canceled my gym membership and stopped going for like 7 months. And I just went back to yoga and was really committed to like getting on my mat and like moving intuitively. And I actually lost like all of the weight and felt so fit and great. And it was the the best I had felt in my body, and I wasn't going to the gym at all. And that's when I really learned how the stress of the way that I was seeing the world, the way that I was seeing myself, the thoughts that I was thinking, all of that was creating an actual physical result in my body and causing me to hold on to a lot more weight. And that just inspired me so much of how much we can actually change our physical vessel through the way that we're thinking. Cause I wasn't really doing anything crazy in terms of working out. I wasn't really restricting calories or doing anything like that or counting anything. It was mostly just like my relationship with myself and the thoughts that I was thinking. And so that completely inspired me to like go way more into these ideas and concepts around mindset. And if I could change my mind about the way I see myself, what else could I change my mind about? And so I was diving into money mindset and just so many other avenues. And that was the catalyst really to me changing my entire life and worldview and creating so much better results for how I felt in the world and how I felt about myself. And then the second low moment I would say was a little bit after that when I was living in Spain and I had been doing all of this work, and I had at the time what I felt was like a dream job. I was working for an influencer. They were flying me out to help them plan these retreats. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm actually doing work in the like, meditation, yoga, mindset space. This is incredible. And they made me an employee. I wasn't making great money, but I was living in Spain at the time. So with the economy, I was like, this is okay. Like I can survive off of this. And I thought that I had like hit the jackpot with that. I was like, this is the dream. I quit all of my other jobs. I quit teaching in the schools. I was like, yes, oh my God, this is amazing. I was earning like, they were paying me like $1,000 a month or something. And I felt like, it felt like my rich life of being able to do something that I actually gave a shit about and to be able to travel and do something meaningful in the world. And then I unexpectedly really quickly got fired one day. My boss's boyfriend, who is also her business partner, called me and he said, we have to let you go. So today is going to be your last day. You don't have to come to work. And I was literally so shook. I was like, oh, fuck. Like I thought this was the thing. Like I felt like I was on the path and I had been doing all this work about believing and trusting in the universe and letting go of all the plan Bs. And so I'd quit all my other jobs. And then I was like, oh my God, am I delusional? Like, I really believed that I could free fall and trust in the universe, and
Mhm.
now the rug's getting pulled out from under me, and so that made me, really question and have to sit with myself of, like, do I believe all of the things that I've been indoctrinating myself into in terms of, like, trusting your intuition, following your path, doing something that you care about, letting go of plan B, being having the courage, taking the risk. And ultimately, I did find out that that was the best thing for me
Mm,
because that was the thing that actually encouraged me to build something of my own. And that was always going to be in my path. That was always going to be in my destiny at some point. But it was like one of those moments where the universe has to really shake you awake. And if I didn't get fired from that job and if I didn't lose everything, I wouldn't have had enough self inquiry to go, maybe I could actually do something like this for myself, because I had already been transforming my life and learning so much. Maybe I could start something of my own. And so that was the catalyst to me actually wanting to build a business. I did have to go back to work. I had to go back into the schools. I had to call my old connections and be like, hey, will you take me back? So it was. And I think sometimes that's the journey for people along the way is having to have enough, or being able to have enough humility to do what feels like maybe a step backwards so that you can actually advance and move forwards in what your ultimate dream is. There's so many people that are afraid of quitting their 9 to 5 and going to get a side job or working at a cafe while they build their business because it feels like a backward step in terms of success and what the world views as, forward motion. But for me, that was the most powerful thing that I could do was to go back working at the schools where I had a 2 hour lunch break and I could work on my business in the meantime. I could run down the street to Starbucks and like take a client call, like, just being willing to be scrappy, but also having something that was supporting me during that time so that I wasn't in full scarcity, in full desperation, and I wasn't putting all this pressure on my business to be the thing that immediately provided for me. So, yeah, long story short, those are the 2 those are the 2 moments that I kind of think of in terms of low moments that really catapulted me to change my life in a lot of ways.
Wow. Sam, I didn't mention this part of my story in your episode, but I resonate to every single thing you said in terms of healing your relationship with your body. I have this like theory that those healers, we start in body healing. It's like our entryway to healing. And so many people that I look up to, mentors, healers, their like first time that they heal themselves is through healing their body and their relationship with their body. And then that catapults to mind and that catapults to money. And then it's like the entryway of healing. And I resonate with everything that you're saying. I'm so sure so many listeners will as well in terms of, just being in school, feeling like you want to fit in, starting whatever diet plan was the trend, and then realizing actually none of that is going to heal me. The healing starts on the inside, and it's an inside job. And I had an addiction to F45. And so I would go to F45 every single morning at 5 in the morning, and I would do a hit freaking exercise at 5:45, my poor hormones. And then I would like shove a smoothie down my mouth and and then I was like wondering why I wasn't looking the way, like why I wasn't losing weight. It's like I didn't even understand hormones at this point. So, anyways, all that to say, very inspired by your story, very inspired by your hero's journey. So I would love to know in that first, I would say, low to high journey, was there one tool that you attest to your success? Was it the affirmations? Was it the journaling? Can you pinpoint one that you look back on and you're like, wow, I really noticed that that made a difference for me. I saw a shift. And it's like you kept leaning on that, and maybe you still lean on that now.
I think for me, it's hard to pick one, because they're
I
all
know.
so powerful and they've obviously
Yeah.
all they've influenced you in a lot of ways. If I really had to nail it down, I feel like the biggest thing that shifted things for me was affirmations, actually, which I
Really?
know can sometimes get like a lot of there's always like trends. And so I think they can get a lot of like flack nowadays because it's like the affirmations aren't enough, blah, blah, blah. Um, but like actually the affirmations were so fucking helpful for me. Like when I really think about what I was doing, yes, I was meditating. Yes, I was doing yoga. Um, yes, I was, practicing different forms of like pranayama and breath control. And another thing that I actually low key love is like nadi shodhana, which is one of the it's called alternate nostril breathing, which
Yes.
like massively helped me with my anxiety. I was like, this is witchery. Like this is a fucking life hack. I can just plug my one nostril and like breathe through my nostrils alternating and my anxiety will go away in like less than 2 minutes. Like, are you kidding me? So that was a major life hack for me. But the affirmations, I would have them on my mirror. I did them for everything around like worthiness, around body, around money. I had these like 10 money affirmations taped to my bathroom mirror for
Mhm.
like a year. And I swear to God, like that completely revolutionized my relationship with money, how I thought about money, how I felt about money, just seeing that every day and repeating them all the time. And then, of course, I was reading a lot of books and I was consuming a lot of this knowledge. I
Mhm.
would have to say probably like expanders were something that really shaped my new reality and helped me shift into new identities and things. Just being around people and following people and learning from people, listening to people that lived the life that I desired, that lived a life that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that's even real. I remember the first time I ever saw a coach making $100,000 a month, and I literally couldn't believe that that was like even a thing. And it's so interesting to kind of like look back on how we become accustomed to new normals all the time because
Mhm.
now we'll see coaches making multi millions per month and we're like, yeah, checks out, makes sense. But I remember vividly being like, how is that even possible? But then I decided that I was going to work with that person and that person would become my mentor. And so getting into rooms and spaces with people that could expand me and could create new normals for me, that like skyrocketed my whole like journey, perception of self, success, everything.
like, so weird. I was literally just looking at you, and I wanted to ask you the question. When Sam was living in Spain, working in the schools, running to calls, did she ever think that she would be making 100,000,000 $100,000 $100,000,000, well, that's in your future, $100,000 a month? Was that, like, a thought? I mean, I know you just kinda answered that, but or was that like, did you grow up with money, or was it was just completely out of the ordinary for you?
I think in the beginning of my business, I didn't even know until I saw that coach making $100,000 a month, I didn't know that that was a possibility. I didn't know that that existed in the world. I had never really thought like, oh, there's probably some people that are making $100,000 a month, like doing something that they love, not being like a C-suite exec, like CEO, some type of person. So no, I wasn't at the start of my business. I wasn't like, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to be the one that's making $100,000. I didn't even know that that was a thing. I also kind of like fell into coaching. I didn't even really know that coaching was a job or like a profession when I started getting into all the personal development stuff.
Mm,
I was just doing it for me and for my own healing. And then a girl that I had met, one of my friends now on one of those retreats when I was working for the influencer company that was running these retreats, she said to me, like offhandedly, I think I'm going to do this like life purpose coaching certification. And I was like, what's that? And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that. And I like literally did it like for fun. And I was like, I think this could maybe be something. But even still, I didn't have the full vision of like, I'm going to do these like coaching calls and then I'm going to have programs. And then because there wasn't as much at the time, you know, 2018, 2019.
mm.
I still wasn't like fully immersed in the coaching space and it wasn't really what it is now. So, no, I didn't have that concept that that is what I was going for. I didn't have a goal of that at all. I didn't even know that that existed. But to your question about how I grew up with money, like I feel and am so privileged. I always grew up with more than enough. My parents were by no means wealthy, but they did really well. They worked really hard and I had a great childhood. I lived in a lovely neighborhood. I went to a great school with a bunch of other white kids. Like it's a very kind of like white picket fence sort of um, story. And, you know, I was lucky enough to be able to go to a big, fancy, expensive college. Obviously, it put me in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Higher education in the US is not affordable, but I was able to make it happen, and then thanks to my business, I was able to pay all that debt down.
I had the exact same story. So I moved or when I was in Bali, I remember I was making $10,000 a month at that time, and that to me was mind-blowing, okay? Where I'm from is like a stop sign. So if you're making $10,000 a month, that was like I might as well just won a Nobel Prize. It was I made the impossible possible. And I remember we were at this dinner in Bali and the girls were all talking about how much they were making. And one of them was like, "Yeah, I'm making $20,000 a month." I was like, I I called my friend, I was like, "Guys, people are making $20,000 a month, like, tell everyone tell." I couldn't even believe it, and then 2 months later, I did that.
Tell your mom, tell your
Yeah,
sister, tell your kids.
I was
People
like,
are making 20K.
"Huh?" Like, this is how much I used to make a year. So I was like, "What is going on?" I agree with you, there is so much power and expansion, your brain needs to see to believe, and getting around the right people, the right rooms, and learning from them is so underrated in your journey, and I love that you brought that up. I'm actually curious, hearing from how you were raised and your story with money, what were the type of money beliefs that you had to overcome to create your first, $100,000 a month? Like, what was that journey like for you?
I think probably one of the biggest ones for me was this idea that in order to make a lot of money, you have to work extremely hard. Like it's going to be hard, almost like it's going to be this sort of grueling process, and that there is pride in that.
Mhm.
And I think there's still elements of that that linger in my mindset, if I'm being totally honest. So that's definitely been the biggest one for me is like this idea that it's admirable. Like that's what makes success worthwhile is being able to wear that kind of like badge of honor,
Mm,
right? Of
mhm.
like, oh, like I worked for this. Like I did something to deserve this. I did something to earn this, and feeling like it's going to be this kind of uphill battle of like having to work really hard. And I think that's, probably something that I saw. My dad is an extremely hard worker. I mean, I'm so inspired by both of my parents because the life that they've created for themselves, especially now in their, a little bit like older years, but also even what they were able to do for us as kids is so wildly different than how they grew up. Like they didn't have help from parents. They didn't grow up with a lot of money or opportunities. Like they had to create everything for themselves. They had to work multiple jobs from the time that they were teenagers to and pay their own way through everything. If they wanted to go to school, they had to pay for it. They had to move out as soon as they were 18, pay for their own apartments, figure out the insurance, figure out all of that stuff. And I feel so fortunate and lucky that I had parents who were like, this is how you do health insurance, honey. This is where, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like all of us in our generation are like, wow, thank God that our parents figured this shit out because they don't teach you this in school. But they have created something that is so wildly different than what they grew up with. So I'm so inspired by their journey with money. But of course, that seeing that was like, oh, you have to like work multiple jobs. You have to like work really hard. Like my
Mm,
dad has always worked jobs where like, he's a really passionate person, so he cares about what he does, but it's never been like his choice of like, I'm so passionate about this industry, like I love this so much. You could definitely tell like he gets fucking stressed out about work.
mhm.
Like one of my biggest fears is that like he's going to like bend over backwards for his job and like kill himself or something and have a heart attack before he like gets to retire. I'm always telling him like don't die for this company.
Mm.
Like they don't care about you. Like please, like so I've always seen massive, amounts of stress, like really insane work ethic, working overtime, long hours, and for sure that's where it comes from, but probably even like past lives and things of my grandparents and stuff like that, for sure.
Was it hard for you to let go of that story?
Yes and no. I think yes because it's so deeply rooted even if we think about um like generational beliefs. You know how they say like it takes 7 generations to like have something like cycle out. So
Mhm,
if you think for all of us, I think that's why, of course, like the work that you do with money is so important because even 1 or 2 generations back, like the relationship that people had with money was so not positive and abundant in the way that it is today. So think about like 7 generations back, like what that and all of the, the wars and the Great Depression and the struggle and all of that, that's still lingering in our DNA. So on that level, like, yes, I'm not going to say, oh, it was, so easy and quick. But the reason why I don't think it was as hard was because of the expanders that I had in my life that made it became so normal so quickly for me
mm,
to see money in a new way and to see the possibility of making more money and being abundant that really, they say like the retina is the first point of access to the subconscious mind. So if you can see that something is factually real, it
mhm,
obviously becomes so much easier to believe it. It's harder to believe something that you can't see, which is why faith is such a challenge for people and they always want the scientific proof of everything. But once you can see something, it like eliminates a lot of the doubt that something is possible. And that's why expanders were so powerful for me because I saw, oh, like this is possible, this is available, this is real, this is fact. And so it was so much easier for me to like assimilate that and to calibrate to that new normal.
mm. Besides being expanded, did you have any was it affirmations or was there any other tool that allowed you to kind of reprogram that story?
I mean, I think meditation helped a lot, and
Mm,
also just kind of like deepening my connection with spirituality and the understanding that there is something larger at play, whatever you believe in, but feeling like there is some force that we are connected with that is always guiding us, looking out for us, providing signs, like leading us down the path that nothing is for nothing, right? Like the things that happened to me that I felt like, oh my gosh, like the rug getting pulled out, me losing that job, being like, what the fuck? Like, I thought this was my dream job. Like, hello. But of course, that was happening for me because it led me down this path of even deeper purpose and even more expansion and even more fulfillment and having my own business and being in complete control of my destiny and generating even more wealth and impacting people directly. And so, yeah, I think affirmations, meditation, spiritual connection. Um, I also utilize tools like hypnosis here and there. I like worked with a hypnotherapist to help like reprogram some parts of my subconscious mind. But in all honesty, I don't feel like I had to go above and beyond and do anything super crazy other than shift my mindset and my concept and then put in the work to actually make that happen. Because once it started happening for me,
Mm.
there was like no going back. Like once I put in the work and in my own business and was generating money and like you said, making 10K months, 20K months, it was just like, okay, like this is not a non-issue anymore.
Who do you feel like you were put on this planet to heal? Like, why do you feel like your soul is here? And who do you feel like you are here to heal?
Mm, good question. I think definitely women, because we have this history, like in our episode on my show, we talked about the witch wound of not being able to really show up in our full power or express ourselves or have this authenticity or work with our intuition, and that is the power of any healer, is being able to have that connection to the sort of, divine guidance that we all have if we tap into it. So I think a lot of my work, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm working with a client on mindset or it's business or it's, a launch strategy, like sometimes those things can seem superficial in terms of like, oh, you're just helping people make more money. But when I really go to the deeper root of like the why behind that work, it's really about like liberating women from the chains that have held us back for so long and empowering them to see themselves in a new way and to create their reality around them so that they can also have a ripple effect on the world, right? Because if I help one woman change her life, change her self concept, start to make more money, become more abundant, become more at peace, become more fulfilled, wake up every day happier, that woman is inevitably going to have an impact on everyone in her life who she touches, her partner, her family, her children, her friends. Like everyone around her is going to benefit from that positive energy that's radiating from her. And so I feel like that is my role, that is my job, is to be someone who is fighting that fight and helping more and more women wake up, realize their power, step into their gifts, come into abundance and experience the world in the way that I believe we were meant to, which is peace, happiness, fulfillment, joy, love.
Mm, that is so beautiful. You bring up this term self-concept a few times, and I want to know, what does that mean to you, and how does someone start to change their self-concept?
Yeah. So self concept is really, in the most basic way, it's the way that we see ourselves, right? It's the way that we view our personality, our limitations, our potential, what we see as possible for our future. It's the construction of ideas that we have about who we are and who we can become in our own mind. And a lot of times people are extremely limited by the self concept that they hold because they view themselves as a victim, or they view themselves as someone who's, oh, I'm just this. I'm just a teacher. I'm just a mom. I'm just whatever. If you have just before anything that you describe yourself, I mean, well, I just have a small business. Like if you put just before anything that you use to describe yourself, you're already automatically limiting your self concept,
Mm,
right? Because you don't see yourself as someone with real impact, someone who has the trajectory or possibility to create something actually like really meaningful and truly big in the world. And it doesn't matter what you do, you can be just a mom and you can have an incredibly large self concept by understanding exactly what I just talked about, the same way that my work is going to have a ripple effect through the women that it empowers. Your work as a mother is going to have a massive ripple effect in the world by the way that it empowers your children.
mm,
So, starting to change like the scope through which you see yourself, and also the bigness of the impact that your life has in this world. So often we view ourselves as like inconsequential, like I'm just this one person, like how am I going to change the world, right?
Hmm.
We might not change the world by becoming a world leader or a politician, but like it's kind of like the butterfly effect, right? Like if you think about every one choice that we make has the potential to have this like domino effect of changing the rest of our lives. So the way that you interact with people in the world, the way that you wake up, your baseline emotion, your mood that you're in most of the time, all of that has this butterfly effect on everyone in your life. It has a huge ripple effect. So shifting your self concept is really about that, like expanding your ideas about who you are, the importance that you hold, and your potential and possibility in this lifetime.
Hmm. I have a fun question. What has been your favorite like butterfly decision? So seemingly this decision that you're like, oh, I'll just do this, I'll just do that. And then it leads to one of the greatest things that's ever happened to you.
My butterfly effect, the biggest one in my life, is without a doubt this most stupid, seemingly inconsequential decision that I made when I was 13 years old, which was I had to study a foreign language, and I didn't want to, but we were obligated in school. We had to pick one. And so there were three options. I asked my older brother, what's the easiest one? Like I just really was trying to like get this over with. And he was like, just do Spanish. It's the easiest one. So I wrote down on my little piece of paper, like you had to rank in order of, the language that you had preference for. And then you would see if you got your preference. And by some stroke of luck, I got my preference because almost everybody wanted to take Spanish because the other options were like Latin and like I think French maybe. Um, so I end up in Spanish class, right? And I don't want to be there. But fast forward, like that choice to study Spanish changed everything in my whole life because I discovered that I was actually pretty good at it. I had this sort of like weird like talent for it. Like I could adopt the accent. Oh my gosh, like I can actually do this. Like so it encouraged me to keep studying it. And then I was like, ooh, this could be my golden ticket to study abroad and to actually get out of this town. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, which is near Niagara Falls. Very gray, very wintry, very cold, very very depressing. Love Buffalo, love the people, but like the weather situation, similar to you, was not for me. I'm like, I need palm trees, I need blue skies, I need sunshine. And also, I'm a Sagittarius. So I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Yep. 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 Yep.
I need to go somewhere because my family wasn't really like a big international travel family. We would do like little road trips and things like that, but nothing else. So I had this craving for travel. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my ticket. If I keep studying Spanish, I'll be able to convince my parents like I have to study abroad because I need to get fluent. Like this is for my degree. And so that's what I did. And so when I was a junior in college, I studied abroad in Spain for a semester. And that was when I met my partner, who I was also just like messing around on a dating app there. I was 21, I was single. People were like, "Oh, Tinder is like a thing over here," which we had never used it because we were in college at the time and it was brand new. It was the only dating app. And we were like, "Should we like try and swipe for like foreign guys? Like that sounds like a fun thing to do when you're 21." So, we're sitting in class, like swiping boys, and luck would have it that like I would be the one that would change my entire life with a little swipey swipey. So I meet this guy and we go on dates and then we start seeing each other for the rest of the, 3 months that I'm in Spain. I fall in love with him. I leave. I think I'm never going to see him again. We stay in contact. He's like, I can't live without seeing you again. Like I can't let this end. I need to know what the future would be like if we actually tried to make this work. And I was like, are we insane? Like we're 21 years old. We have our whole lives ahead of us. We live on different continents. Like are we really going to try to like have a relationship? But we did and it worked. And obviously it was for something because we're still together 10 years later. And that was, he was a large part of the reason why when I finished school I decided to decline my corporate job offers and move to Spain. And so then I ended up living in Spain for 6 years. And that's where I was when I did all that work on myself to heal my body image after college and got the inspiration to start my own business. And I launched my podcast there. Like everything happened for me in Spain. It was such like I'll have to look at my astrocartography. Everyone keeps telling me to do that, but I'm like, Spain was definitely part of my destiny.
Whoa, I have full chills in my whole body. Could you see yourself moving back to Spain?
Yeah, for sure. So we lived there, or I lived there rather. He lived there his whole life. I lived there so I studied abroad in 2015, and then 2016, we were a year apart, long distance. And so I moved back at the end of 2016. And then I stayed until the end of 2021. So, right at the start of 2022, we decided to move back to the US. Um, I was excited about living on the beach. I wanted to find a place in South Florida. I was like, I'm getting a beach condo. I'm walking across the street, touching the sand. I'm walking on the beach every day. Like, I want to see the water from my floor to ceiling windows like that. If I could have anything in the world, like that's what I want and I'm going to get it. And so we went on this journey to like manifest their dream beach condo and move to Florida. And so we've been here for a little over 2 years, but in the future, I think for sure we have somewhat of a plan to move back to Spain. Um, Definitely to retire, if not sooner, just depending on like how life unfolds. You never know.
Mm. Okay, this perfectly segues to my next question. And this is a bit of a selfish one. So, as someone who, is very personally like heavy in working all day, running a team, working with clients, like constantly, as you know, running this type of business, you're always on. And I wonder, what are your tips from I like literally my one of my team members the other day was like, we're girl bossing too close to the sun. And I'm like, literally. So I want to know, what are your tips for like balancing the doing and the quote unquote like masculine action with your feminine, and how do you bring in that femininity in your relationship? Because something that I'm managing is like, I feel like all day long I'm like this like boss, like hustle, hustle, hustle. And then when I get home, I want to be this like feminine being. And I'm wondering tips on how to like balance those both in a romantic relationship, actually.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question and one that a lot of people have. And I think, like, for me, sometimes it really depends on the season because, like, right now is a really busy season for me in business. We're in quarter four, there's like a lot of things coming up and happening. I mean, Q4 is statistically the busiest, most profitable time for like most businesses. So there is a lot going on. And so I think right now, I'm probably not doing the best job of balancing those two things because my work hours are sort of like weird and I've been working a little bit later than normal. And so, yeah, like I don't want to come off as like, oh, I'm so perfect at this. And like every day I do this like ritual and then I just click right into my feminine. Like, I think that's unrealistic. And I think it's unhelpful to give women more unrealistic standards. We have enough unrealistic standards that we're trying to live up to. So I just want to start by saying that. But for me, like I think I am a naturally my nature is feminine energy
Mm,
for sure. And I have a lot of softness. Like I'm a Cancer moon. So I have a
mhm,
lot of like the mother archetype, a lot of nurturing, a lot of softness, a lot of emotion. But I'm also, Sagittarius sun, which is a lot of fire. And I also have Virgo rising, which is a lot of like the structure, organization, like health, like that. So I feel like I have quite a balanced sort of like archetype if we're just looking at like astrology, but also some other things. But my default when it comes to things are going wrong, and this is what I think is really interesting for people to look at, is like, yes, by nature a feminine being. I really resonate with that. However, my natural tendency when things are going wrong or things are challenging is to divert to masculine energy. So
mm,
think about the way that you choose to like solve an issue in your life. If something overwhelming is happening, or if you have a lot of extra work, or whatever, there's a challenge, there's a problem, what do you naturally divert to? And for me, that's masculine energy. So I immediately lean in. I'm like, well, let's fucking fix it. Let's solve it. Like, if I have all this stuff on my plate, I'll just work longer. I'll just work harder. Like, I'll just get more organized. I'll just time block better. Like, I go immediately into, I'm like, okay, I need to make a list. Like, I go into masculine mode to try to solve.
Same.
right? But some people go into to like, and obviously that's maybe like unhealthy masculine. We're just using these terms loosely, but some people will go into like unhealthy feminine to try to solve, which is like, I feel like this is so much right now. I need to lean out. Like,
Mhm.
I want to avoid. I want to not look at this. I want to pretend that it's like not real. I want to go do something else, shut down, whatever.
Mhm.
That's not me. So, my journey has been figuring out how to balance my feminine nature with my default kind of like fix it masculine mode. And I
Mhm.
would say that that it's a continuous journey of like finding that finesse. But one of the biggest things that helped me balance my energy in relationships specifically is being able to surrender certain things to my partner and to trust my partner to be able to do stuff. Like I never used to be able to trust him to go to the grocery store without me. Like that sounds so sounds so lame now to say out loud, but like literally I would be like, "Okay, well, I need to text you like the whole list and like don't forget these things." Like I just wasn't willing to surrender the control of like,
Mhm.
"Oh, since I'm super busy, like I'm going to let you help me and you can go do that." It was like, "No, I can do it better." So now I feel overwhelmed because I have to be a participant in absolutely everything because I do it best and because I know best. And the reality was in surrendering that task, like, yeah, he did forget stuff that I wanted a lot of times. And that was frustrating. But also, there is joy and peace in letting go and letting someone help you. Same thing with laundry. Like when he started doing laundry, I like literally couldn't tell if the pile was folded or if it was just dumped out from the basket. Like that's how bad the folding was. And, like, as a Virgo rising, I was, like, not okay with that at the start, but I was like, "I have to let go." Like, there's a give and take. Like, I can't be at 100% capacity on top of absolutely everything in life. I have to be in partnership, and partnership means trusting the other person. It means allowing the other person to lead, letting them take charge. I also completely surrendered, like, planning trips and booking things. Like, he does all of that now. So there's certain ways in which I've been able to step back and allow him to step forward, and that's really helped our relationship because he obviously can't fix things in my business. He can't do my job for me, but he can support me in all these other ways of, building our life together and household stuff and things like that.
Oh my God, that is so inspiring to hear. Sam, this whole episode, I can't wait to re-listen to this and make notes. It has been incredible. For everyone listening, where can everyone find you? Give us all the details. Where can we stalk you?
Thank you for having me on. I loved this. Yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram at _Samantha Daily. You can head over to the podcast, listen to the episode that we just did with Marley. The podcast is called Makeshift Happen. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. And then if you're interested in any programs or business masterminds, you can go to samanthadaily.com.
Yay. Okay, thank you so much, guys. And we can't wait to listen to this live. Thank you. Bye.